Tonight, on First at 9 this Sunday, the 14th of September 2025. Narcotic nuisance. 17 of the 20 samples from the Middaniya chemical hall positive for methamphetamine precursors. Dangerous Drugs Control Board confirms. 10 years worth of illicit drugs in the country already, claims Deputy Minister. Export excursion. Government eyes $6.5 billion in foreign revenue by 2030 through a comprehensive 5-year strategic plan for the plantation sector. Ailing agriculture. Shortage of kiri samba reported in the market as vendors accuse millers of disregarding the price controls. Opposition leader warns of more issues in the agriculture sector if farmer concerns are not addressed. Thriving tourism. Sri Lanka surpasses 1.6 million tourist arrivals for the year. Over 52,000 arrivals recorded so far during the month of September.
Kalin baby soap rupial 90කට. Kalin baby podi හැමෝටමයි.
This is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to Derana First at 9. I'm Aditya Drisingha joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world, brought to you by the only Sri Lankan media network to rise to the pinnacle across all media platforms, recognized as the best by every survey and beloved by the people. Now in your top story tonight, the saga on the suspicious chemicals uncovered in Middaniya continues to unfold, with the National Dangerous Drugs Control Board confirming that most of the collected samples were precursors in the crystal methamphetamine production cycle. Meanwhile, law enforcement authorities continue to crack down on the den of underworld operations run by notorious criminal Padme's associate, Bako Saman.
On September 5th, officers of the Western North Crime Division uncovered around 50,000 kilograms of chemical substances believed to be used in the production of crystal methamphetamine during an inspection of a plot of land in Middaniya. Investigations further uncovered that the chemicals in question were intended to be used for the production of narcotics. According to reports, the production facilities were spearheaded by known criminals including Padme and Kudu Nilanga. This information was uncovered by law enforcement authorities interrogating Bako Saman, a known underworld operative recently apprehended alongside Padme in Indonesia. The interrogation was conducted under the supervision of Assistant Superintendent of Police Rohan Olugala, Director of the Western North Crime Division, and Chief Inspector Linton Silva, the officer in charge of the Western North Crime Division. Subsequently, samples of the chemicals confiscated were handed over to the National Dangerous Drugs Control Board and the Government Analysts Department for further examination. Accordingly, the National Dangerous Drugs Control Board submitted its report on the chemicals in question to the police last Friday. The report reveals that 17 of the 20 chemical samples collected from Middaniya were confirmed to be those used in the production of crystal methamphetamine. The Government Analysts Department, however, is yet to submit its findings on the chemical samples. The police have so far identified Pial Manamperi and Sampath Manamperi to be key suspects linked to the stock of chemicals in question. Pial Manamperi, a former Angunukola Palace Pradesh Sabha member of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, has already been arrested by the police, while Sampath Manamperi continues to evade arrest. Sampath Manamperi too is a former Angunukola Palace Pradesh Sabha member elected through the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna. Further investigations into the incident are being conducted by the Police Narcotics Bureau. In the meantime, another individual involved in drug trafficking was arrested in Suryavava. The arrest was made possible through further information revealed by Bako Saman during interrogations. The 39-year-old suspect arrested was revealed to be a distributor of narcotics and a relative of Bako Saman. Western North Crime Division yesterday arrested another associate of Bako Saman with a Type 81 assault rifle in his possession. The Ambilipitiya Magistrates Court ordered the suspect to be held in remand custody till September 24th.
රුපියල් 8900ක මාසික වාරිකයකට brand new TVS XL 100 යතුරු පැදියක් ගන්න.
Now the suspicious chemicals uncovered in Middaniya continues to polarize Sri Lanka's politics, with accusations being levelled at the government over turning a blind eye to lapses during inspections by Sri Lanka Customs. Let's take a look at the latest political thoughts on this front.
හරි ලස්සනට නීතිය ක්‍රියාත්මක කරනවානේ.
The law seems to be very well imposed at the moment. The Deputy Minister in charge of the police presents photographs and says rocks utilised in the production of narcotics have been imported. However, officers in service of Sri Lanka Customs assert that the stock of chemicals were released after conducting thorough examinations. They claim that the Police Narcotics Bureau and the CID also scrutinised the stock of chemicals before release. This is a comedy of errors. Given the stock of narcotics already imported into Sri Lanka and stored underground or elsewhere, even if we manage to completely stop illicit drugs being smuggled in, there are enough narcotics to sustain underworld operations for 10 years. Container loads of narcotics have been stored away. This is a colossal disaster.
Red label allow a container.
Around 300 red-flagged containers were released without any inspection. At that moment itself, we raised concern over the possibility of the containers carrying drugs, narcotics or weapons. However, back then the government remained unbothered. The government is reaping the seeds it sowed back then.
ඉතින් දැන් අද මුණ දෙන්න වෙලා තියෙන්නේ ඔන්න ඔය ගැටලුව.
මේක වැරද්දක් තියෙනවා නම් මොකක් හරි ඒ සම්බන්ධනොත් ක්‍රියාමාර්ග ගන්නවා.
If a mistake has been made, action will be taken against it. Our government will not limit its efforts against corruption to leaders of previous regimes. If our government has committed fraud, corruption or deceit, we will not hesitate to take the necessary strict actions required.
අපි සූදානම්.
දැන් කුඩු කන්ටේනර් දෙකත් ඔබතුමාලගේ රජයෙන් ආවා කියලානේ කියන්නේ.
අපි බලමු මේක තාම පරීක්ෂණ අවධියේ.
Let's see. The matter is still being investigated. The investigations will shed light on the origins of the chemicals, who transported the stock and all other relevant details. Wrongdoings will remain wrongdoings despite what government wields power.
ඒක මොන රජයෙන් වුණත් වැරද්ද නම් වැරද්ද.
Now, Prime Minister Dr. Harni Amarasuri asserts that the President's Fund, which was once misused by a privileged few, is being utilised for its intended purpose of serving citizens. She made this remark during an event in Kandy today.
A ceremony was held at the Kandy District Secretariat today to award scholarships of 100,000 rupees each to 361 students from the Kandy, Matale and Norelia districts who achieved outstanding results in the GCE Advanced Level Examination in 2023 and 2024. 36.1 million rupees have been allocated from the President's Fund for the initiative.
Until now, it was necessary to travel to Colombo to receive the services of the President's Fund. We discussed that these services should be decentralized to every divisional secretariat. This was on January 28th, and by February 7th, the program had been initiated in 341 divisional secretariats. The President's Fund is a people's fund. The people are its sole owners, and our duty is to distribute it properly among the people.
When the President's Fund was discussed, it was more often about how it was misused rather than how it benefited the people. If you listen to the parliamentary speeches, you may have heard us debating on multiple occasions about how this fund, which was established for the citizens, was misused by a privileged group. We are happy that today the President's Fund is being used for its intended purpose. Today the President's Fund has become closer to the people through an online platform which has made it easier to obtain the fund's service. Our government is attempting to develop and change the country so that all services required by citizens can be rendered in a populist manner.
ජනතාවාදී විදියට ලබා දෙන තැනකට අපේ රට දියුණු කරන්න වෙනස් කරන්න තමයි අපි මේ උත්සාහ කරන්නේ.
හොඳම ෆෝන් එකක් ගන්න. ළඟම බාන්ස් එකට යන්න.
Meanwhile, Health Minister Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa says the government plans to establish community health centres across the country to provide early diagnosis of non-communicable diseases. Speaking at an event in Ratnapura, the minister says that 10 such centres will be established across 5 districts as a pilot project starting from September 26th.
A mobile health clinic themed Arogya was held yesterday at Hevai Nakanda Vidyalaya in the Ahaliyagoda Divisional Secretariat Division of Ratnapura under the patronage of Minister of Health and Mass Media Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa. An initiative by the Ministry of Health and Mass Media, the series of health clinics aims to uplift the health condition of rural communities by providing early diagnosis, treatment and referrals to specialist clinics.
The Arogya Mobile Health Clinics is one step in our journey towards a healthy nation. In conjunction with the clinics, we will establish a community health center in your village that can provide early diagnosis of your health conditions and direct you towards appropriate treatment. That too will be named Arogya. From September 26th, these community health centers will be established in 5 districts as a pilot project. One of them will be opened in Attoya in the Ratnapura district on September 27th. One of the biggest challenges facing us at the moment is the outbreak of non-communicable diseases. Considering the state of our hospital system, it would be better if these diseases can be identified early, allowing patients to be directed towards appropriate treatment instead of waiting for them to worsen, cause complications and spread to other systems, ultimately leading to hospitalization. This process is our priority.
Welcome back. Now, Minister of Plantations and Community Infrastructure Samantha Vidyaratna announces that the government aims to generate $6.5 billion in foreign revenue by 2030 through a comprehensive 5-year strategic plan developed for the plantation sector. The minister made these remarks while addressing the 35th annual general meeting of the Tea Factory Owners Association held yesterday. Meanwhile, the ambassador of Iran to Sri Lanka, Dr. Alireza Delkosh, who also attended the event, states that there is an opportunity for Sri Lanka to access the markets where Iran currently exports tea through joint venture collaborations.
The 35th annual general meeting of the Tea Factory Owners Association was held in Kotte yesterday. The event was chaired by Minister of Industry and Entrepreneurship Development Sunil Handunnetti and Minister of Plantations and Community Infrastructure Samantha Vidyaratna. Also in attendance were Iranian Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Dr. Alireza Delkosh, and Chairman of the Tea Factory Owners Association, Lionel Herat.
Looking forward, there is mutual potential for Iran and Sri Lanka to deepen cooperation in the tea sectors. Some of the elements of maximizing our cooperation are diversification of trade. There is room for collaboration in branding, packaging, and value-added products. Joint ventures. Iranian investors and Sri Lankan producers could explore partnership in processing facilities, technology transfer, and distribution channels. Market expansion. Working together, we can access third country markets, leveraging Iran's gateway and transit capacity to Central Asia and the Middle East and European countries. And Sri Lanka established presence in Europe and beyond.
In my view, one of the major challenges facing the industry is the shortage of skilled labor. For the tea industry to thrive, we need committed, loyal individuals with the right skills to remain in the sector. Coming from Denia myself, I know firsthand how difficult it is to find labor in that area. Many workers are leaving the industry for employment opportunities in Korea. As a ministry, our proposal is to develop a skilled workforce with the necessary expertise to sustain and grow the industry. We have prepared a comprehensive strategic policy for the tea industry, a 5-year strategic plan. Our goal is to achieve $2.5 billion in export earnings from tea by 2030. In addition, from other key crops, we have targeted $1.5 billion from coconut, $2 billion from rubber, and $0.5 billion from cinnamon. Altogether, our aim is to generate $6.5 billion from these core plantations by 2030. In 2026, we plan to launch the 500 Small Tea Villages initiative. By incorporating cooperative models, we intend to strengthen and sustain these communities, ensuring their long-term contribution to the industry's future.
Now, a shortage of kirisamba has resurfaced with consumers expressing growing concern. Wholesalers in Petta claim that they are withholding sales as rice mills are supplying stocks at prices above the government-imposed control price. As a result, retailers too are holding back from selling kirisamba. The United Rice Producers Association urged the government to remove the maximum retail price on samba and kirisamba. However, the All Ceylon Small and Medium-Scale Rice Mill Owners Association warns against this move, accusing large-scale millers of engineering a shortage to boost profits. Meanwhile, the National Farmers Union called for urgent government intervention to resolve the crisis. On the same topic, opposition leader Sajith Premadasa drew attention to a plethora of challenges looming over Sri Lanka's paddy cultivation and urged government intervention in a bid to save farmers from being doomed into poverty. He made these remarks while attending a ceremony held in Vilachya, Anuradhapura today.
The newly constructed Pattini Devalaya at the Sri Uttaravasi Viharaya in Vilachya, Anuradhapura was officially declared open today. The ceremony was graced by the presence of opposition leader Sajith Premadasa.
Agriculture has become an extremely challenging task for our farmers these days. They are not receiving high-quality seeds for cultivation. The disbursement of funds for the procurement of fertilizer has been delayed, and the prices of fertilizer and fuel remain unaffordable. The rental costs for agricultural equipment are excessively high, and on top of that, farmers are not offered a fixed or fair price for their harvests. We hope that the government would set a guaranteed price of 120 rupees per kilogram of paddy. However, today farmers are forced to sell wet paddy at just 90 to 95 rupees per kilogram. These circumstances pave the way towards poverty in the country. A vicious cycle has doomed Sri Lanka. When agriculture, services and industry collapse, the lifeline of the country collapses with it. These issues require solutions.
The only way to develop the country is to instill an entrepreneurial mindset in all Sri Lankans, says Sarvajana Balaya leader MP Dilith Jayavira. He expressed these views while participating in an entrepreneurship workshop in Kurunegala today.
The workshop aimed at nurturing 100,000 digital entrepreneurs was held today in the Kurunegala district, bringing together a diverse group of participants including entrepreneurs, students and community members. The event was graced by the presence of MP Dilith Jayavira, leader of the Sarvajana Balaya, who served as the chief guest.
Our progress will be stagnant until and unless we properly understand the mindset required for entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is not a complicated concept to grasp. It comes down to attitude. Entrepreneurship is not synonymous to running a business. To become an entrepreneur, one must adjust one's mind accordingly. One must think differently. One must think creatively. If by thinking so, you also intend to accumulate profits, then you have transformed your thinking pattern to befit an entrepreneur. All 22 million Sri Lankans must be entrepreneurs. This doesn't mean that everyone must open up shops and businesses. It is a mental image we draw ourselves. Our carpenters think creatively. A carpenter's apprentice must visualize a progressive future. They must visualize how to take risks. They must visualize how to manage such risks. This, in essence, is what entrepreneurship is all about. While looking at the world through the lens of entrepreneurship, one must set up a business too. In the process of becoming an entrepreneur, someone may find themselves stalled. They stall as such not over the lack of capital or over the adverse impact of Sri Lanka's so-called 76-year curse. They stall because they haven't transformed their mindset. The progress of the entire world is fueled by modern technology and creativity. There is no point in complaining if we don't understand that reality.
Director General of the Department of Coastal Conservation and Coastal Resource Management, Professor P.B. Pradeep Kumara, underscores the pressing need for coherent maritime governance in Sri Lanka, pointing out the impediments caused to scientific research, resource exploration and effective regional cooperation by the absence of a unified policy framework. Speaking at a discussion on maritime security in the Indian Ocean region, the professor drew attention to the gap between national jurisdiction and regional geopolitics, urging for structured policies, international partnerships and strategic coordination to unlock the economic and environmental potential of the Indian Ocean.
A panel discussion themed maritime security in the Indian Ocean region was convened as part of the inauguration ceremony of the South Asian Sustainability and Security Research Institute. The event featured a panel of experts, Director General of the Department of Coastal Conservation and Coastal Resource Management, Professor P.B. Pradeep Kumara, Chairperson of the Maldives Policy Think Tank and former Deputy Speaker of the Maldives, Eva Abdullah, and member of the National Security Advisory Board of India and former Senior Naval Officer, retired Rear Admiral Monty Khanna.
There are small states that might face anxieties because of influence of superpowers, and India plays a major role as the region's superpower. How can India work to not just ease these anxieties of small states, but to collectively elevate our region from a security perspective?
It's complex. It's not easy for a country like India to police their own waters. There have to be creative, collective solutions. I think the more that we engage in this process with complete transparency and trust at every level, so that you build up that trust with time, and then I think it is equally beneficial to both parties.
From a governance perspective, how our region and Sri Lanka can play a lead here. What is your perspective in terms of managing the governance aspect?
Sri Lanka, we have the full jurisdiction to do our research with until our EEZ. When you go for research in our waters, it's completely our decision. If you do some research on deeper water research, geopolitical the pressure comes on us. Then government should have some policies to how to proceed forward. But at the moment, the government is playing a very, very defensive role. There, from policy-wise, government should have some standard how to go forward. At the moment, we are not prepared for that. But in regionally, when we do research, in that sense, we can get together. From that perspective, Sri Lanka will move forward and we will get some more freedom because data and those research are future investment.
Your strategic perspective here in terms of top maritime security threats and how the Indian Ocean region is really prepared to face these threats.
I think our bigger challenges in future are going to come from the sustainability piece of it. That translation of ideas into policy. That itself is a difficult territory to navigate. You have to be bold and at times you have to be fearless to make that happen. So there are immense opportunities in the Indian Ocean. Firstly, of course, the oceans open themselves up to collaboration, cooperation by their very nature being part of the global commons. And when it comes to Sri Lanka and India, I mean, there's so much that we can do together.
On the sustainability aspect, how we're going to work with the region to enable all our states have a policy framework to address the common threats and risks we face.
Our main task should be achieving that SDG goal by 2030. So in Sri Lanka, especially in marine environment, are we really managing our marine environment sustainably? If we want to establish sustainability in our region, in our country, we have to work together. We have to put our heads together. We have to find some strategies. Achieving sustainability, especially in the ocean environment, is a bit challenging. It's not at all affordable. We need to develop some policies. Each country has its own stake.
When we engage in regional policy cooperation and governance challenges that are faced by small states, how do you think domestic political pressures work here and the importance of the region coming together?
Foreign policy cannot and should not be removed from domestic sensitivities. As any country engages in international partnerships, we always need to be mindful of the pulse on the ground. I think the debt situation and the fiscal situation, economic situation, and the impact this debt has on the lives of the people is one of the driving factors of all the volatility in our countries. Therefore, as we engage in these partnerships, as we bring in investment, we need to be also mindful of good governance, mismanagement, corruption issues, and also in order to avoid the debt trap. So as we engage in these partnerships, we have to be so mindful of how we navigate our governance systems and how we navigate the funds that we do bring in.
Welcome back. Now in your business news, Sri Lanka has attracted 1.6 million tourists as of the 10th of September 2025 as the country closes in on the target of securing 3 million tourist arrivals this year. 52,246 tourists have arrived in Sri Lanka between the 1st and the 10th of September this year, depicting an increase compared to the same period last year when 41,357 tourist arrivals were recorded.
According to the Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority, 198,235 tourists arrived in Sri Lanka during the month of August this year. Compared to the same period last year, which saw 164,609 tourist arrivals, this year's figure represents an increase of 33,626 visitors. The highest number of tourist arrivals for the month of August so far was recorded between the 1st and 7th of August, when 54,217 tourists touched down in Sri Lanka. Meanwhile, 52,246 tourist arrivals were recorded during the month of September this year, where 37,495 tourists had visited the island nation between the 1st and 7th of September. So far, India remains the top source market for tourism for August and the first week of September this year, with 60,773 tourists. In the meantime, the United Kingdom, Germany and China also remained among the other top source markets for Sri Lankan tourism during both months. However, Italian and French tourists, who were among the top source markets in the month of August, were surpassed by tourists from Australia and the Netherlands this month. The Sri Lankan foreign exchange revenue from tourism reached $258.9 million in August this year. However, the sector's revenue for the month of August indicated less than the $282.1 million earned during the same period last year. Overall, a total of 1,618,769 tourists arrived in the island nation between the 1st of January and the 10th of September this year.
That's all for tonight from First at 9. For the latest developments around the clock, stay in touch with Ada Derana, the Sri Lankan brand of international excellence. Thank you for joining. Have a great night.
For news and information you can trust 24 hours a day, visit adaderana.lk.